And welcome, Scott Reeves. But tell us how you got to be here.
I studied anthropology over the road, and I came into the museum on a data entry project in 2000, May 2000. So I've just had my 15th anniversary here, and over the years really just sort of worked my way up to where I am now.
So what have you brought us?
I've brought us one of our Greek vases. This is a Hydria, an Attic black figure Hydria. So this kind of vase was...
Attic
is in from Athens. So your main areas of Greek vases, especially around this area, were Corinth and Athens. Athens sort of gradually gained precedence and became the more important centre of Greek vase and pottery. A lot of that's to do with the clay. The clay's much better in Athens. It's got that deep red that you can see in the unglazed areas of the vase. The oranges along here from the very iron-rich clay of the area. And eventually they had the best craftsmen. They were doing the most export of their vases.
From there?
Yeah.
Well, when you talk about craftsmen, I mean, this is exquisite, really.
It really is.
I mean, the extraordinary amount
absolutely
of
beautiful
detail. One person?
For this one, we're not quite sure. Sometimes it was the same person that did the potting and the painting. Sometimes it was different people. We'd say probably a different potter to a painter. Often the potters were the people that owned the factories that they were coming out from. The painters were either slaves on some of the rougher pots, or obviously craftsmen in their own rights, like the famous Ezekias and guys like that.
How is it that we know their names?
Some of them signed their pots, which is very helpful. Yeah. If only they wrote the dates on them as well, we'd be away laughing.
Oh, absolutely.
A lot of the time we assign names to the potters as well, so you can pick up the hand of a craftsman across a number of different pots and say that it's the same person.
This is an expertise that you develop because you see so many?
That's right, yeah. You know, the same way that an unsigned Picasso could be obviously a Picasso to the right expert.
You're talking about painters as against people who specialise in glazes. You were saying before we went on air that there was the slip you're talking.
Yeah, so I could step through how you make something like this, so you can try it at home when we finish here.
All right, yes. Fine.
So the clay first of all is made up into the form of the vase. This one's wheel made, so spun on a wheel just like we do now. Obviously not electric wheels, but there'll be somebody turning the wheel as the pot is forming up the body of the vase.
So how do you get the person to go faster or slower?
I guess you give them a clip around the ears and
clip
say...
around the ear, a kick in the buttock.
That's right, yeah.
Fair enough,
yeah. Carry on, slave. Yeah. The foot and probably the top piece were made separately and attached to it while it was still in a raw state. And these pieces are all hand modelled, so the three handles that this vase has were made by hand. And some of the vases are gorgeous. You can actually see the finger marks down there as they're running down and pulling the shape out, which is quite nice. So it gets assembled, and it's left to dry overnight to what we call leather hard, which is pretty self-explanatory, kind of like leather. And then it's handed over to the painter who starts his work. So the first thing he does is he'll sketch out in charcoal or maybe etch out the design that he's going to put on it, and then he starts to paint it with a slip. Now the slip's the same stuff as the clay, just pretty much watered down finer particles, and that's all the black areas on this vase here. So these have been brushed on, and after they're brushed on, the decoration is incised on. So if you look real close at the figures, you can see scratched through the black slip there.
To eternity.
You can see scratched onto that as some of the decoration to bring through, to remove some of the slip and bring through the base colour of it.
So this pot's telling us a story as well, isn't it? This is an historical event that's depicted in the pot.
Not a historical event. The pots very rarely had historical events.
Really?
Usually they're mythological events. Sometimes they're kind of cues for storytellers to start to yak and tell a story as they're having drinking parties, because obviously so many of the pots are related to getting on the Turks.
I think if you drank liquor from that,
not this.
By the end of the evening, your stories would be a little garbled.
I imagine so. Yeah, and that's how we developed philosophy.
Was it?
This one's actually it's called a Hydria. It's a water vase. So we've got two.
So there are sort of standard shapes, are there?
Yeah, you've got your amphora, which is a storage vase.
I understand that.
A kylix, which is to mix the wine and water, because Greek wine was quite strong. Generally, it was watered down. The Macedonians generally didn't water their wine, and they were seen as the Vikings of the area, the rough barbarians that didn't water. So this you take down to your well, and you dip it into the well and bring the water out. So the handle at the back is used to dip down and pull up, and this is used to carry it.
So there it is.
There it is.
This is one on display?
This one's currently not on display. It was recently in our Gifts and Legacies exhibition, but currently in storage. It'll have its day again. It's one of our finer pieces.
Thank you very much indeed, Scott
My
Reeves.
pleasure.